你是不是觉得说自己的脑袋里面有很多的好点子，可是你常常就是说不清楚，说不出来？不管是在做简报啊、写贴文啊，还是跟人家沟通，你很难让别人立刻抓到你的重点。那今天呢，我就超级兴奋的，因为我邀请到了一位我非常崇拜的国外的创作者，他可以说是这个把想法画出来的顶尖专家，叫做 Janis。那这一集呢，是一个全英文的访谈。Okay, so I'm really excited for our guest today, and he is a master at solving this visualization problem expert, and he's Janis. So I followed him on Instagram for years. I love his visual posts, and Janis is a visual storyteller from Europe, and he's worked with amazing clients like the director Matt Davila and Naval Ravikant, which everyone we know here in Taiwan. So yeah, Janis is online with us. So welcome him and please say hello to our audience.
Hey, Waki, very happy to be here and chat with your people. It's really fun
Yeah.
to connect from Europe all the way to Taiwan. You're in Taiwan, right?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Okay, so today we will dive into a topic. It's a visualization is a thinking tool that everyone can learn. So yeah, before we start, I think recently in Taiwan or maybe in the world, there is a very, very big news that the Gemini, the Notebook LM, they can generate the AI image very fast. So I think it's crazy. Have you heard about this yet, Janis?
Of course I've heard about it. It's like with AI, every week is another new groundbreaking model and something is happening. Yeah, definitely have heard about it. It's very impressive what it can do. I think it's tremendously good news for people who want to use like visual thinking but really struggle like with design and making things polished like that. It's pretty much the same thing, I don't know how to code. Right now, I'm coding all my websites myself. You know this term vibe coding, by using all these AI tools, etc. So basically, AI have closed this gap for my inability to code. I can now use AI to get the results I want, but kind of code myself with AI assistance. And I think it's quite similar with the AI image generation. I would say like, if you don't use it at all right now, you will be like 100% zero AI, you will be quite slow. But if you will use 100% AI, it will probably be slop. It will not be there. So I think the sweet spot is somewhere in the middle, It's same with my like coding and vibe coding and stuff, I still go to developer experts who like knows the architecture and stuff, and they say like, Janis, this is not good, this is garbage, there are some clear flaws in here. And that's what happens when you use like I think 100% AI. So you need to have like the general I think knowledge and understanding, and then you can really leverage like AI to get like really solid results. So the balance is somewhere in between. But yeah, I agree, it's tremendously impressive what these things can generate these days.
Yeah, so I think today we can find out what is the sweet spot for our human. Yeah, and I wanted to ask you that when did you start like drawing or like visualization? Is it from your younger age, or when did you start drawing?
No, actually, like drawing has never been a thing of mine. And I think that's what a lot of people find compelling, because like one of my things is, which I say, like you really don't need to be a designer to do this stuff. And I've been saying this for years because I was not a designer and I somehow stumbled upon this. And the reason why I stumbled upon this, it started, I was in the corporate world, doing the regular stuff, etc., etc. And it was like 8 years back around, and I start to see like all these bloggers and online businesses and how people, travel the world and do all these cool things. I was like, I don't want this corporate job or whatever. I want to travel the world as well, and build like an online business. So that is where it started. And then basically for 4 years, I tried to build like some software products with other people. I tried YouTube, which I thought was interesting but tremendously hard. So much respect to you for like kind of pulling off the YouTube game. I tried blogging. I tried various different things to kind of figure out my creator or this online business thing. And just through a lot of iteration, trial and error, and quitting things, I stumbled upon this visual communication. I actually stumbled upon first time in, I believe a lot of people know James Clear, the Atomic Habits guy, you know.
I love him. I love him. Yeah.
So, and I was reading his blog, and I was like, when I was young, I never really read books. I somehow didn't develop a reading habit. And I was checking his blog, and I was kind of browsing, and sometimes he uses these illustrations to explain his like concepts. And I was like, I look at this image which he have added to his blog post, and I understand the whole idea which he tries to explain. I feel like I don't need to read this, and like just this one visual explains this to me. And that was like the first kind of head scratching moment for me, which was interesting. And then there's another guy who is like a visual thinker as well, but he's like a lot in the crypto NFT space as well. His name is Jack Butcher from Visualize Value, and he was the kind of the first guy who was doing visuals. They're a little bit more abstract, but he was like doing it online, and it was his full-time thing, you know. James Clear is doing them like as a supplementary thing to his blog, but this other guy was like doing it full time, you know, just doing these visuals, and he was getting a lot of attention and stuff. And he kind of created this belief that visuals on its own, you know, could be something. So that's when I started to take it even more seriously. And just from trial and error, it kind of happened, and I started to post stuff online, create my visuals. Of course, they were quite sloppy at the beginning, so I learned from the audience feedback and stuff. But I had zero audience, but like in 6 months, in few months, I already started to gain some growth, and I was like, holy crap, you know, there's something here. Random people started to reach out to me like, hey, can you do this for me? Like, I have this thing or whatever. And I was like, wow, amazing. You know, for 4 years, I really tried to find my space in the online world. And then I started to do these visuals, and finally things started to happen. And the good part was like, it was sustainable. I was like working 9 to 5. I had kid coming, a kid was about to born, you know. So I was able to produce these visuals every single day, even with all those daily accountabilities. So it has all the things, you know. I did enjoy YouTube as well, but I felt this is unsustainable, you know, for me and all my obligations. But visuals was like tremendously fun. It just kind of, we can pick that in any way you like, but that's more or less the initial story and how I started.
Wow, because I like your Instagram post so much. That is so clear. Like, I would put your Instagram link in the show notes for everyone. And I suggest everyone just go follow Janis. And you will see how amazing those posts are. Very clear, very, very beautiful. And one image equals 1,000 words. I'm curious about why this is a business for you, and how did you turn it into a business? Like, where is your client, or who did you serve? Who did you help?
I have kind of business came to me in the best way possible, because initially I was working on 9 to 5 on the side. I was putting these visuals initially on Twitter back in the days, and then later on Instagram and LinkedIn and all the social platforms as well. And a few months in, when I started to gain some more attention, some people reach out to me like just to do freelance for them. Hey, can you illustrate my book? Can you do this? A lot of people ask me, hey, how do you do this stuff? Can I learn this from you? What's your like thinking process? And from that, 2 ideas burn. One was like, okay, I could make like online course and community to teach this to other people, which I did, and that is one side of the business. And the other part was just, mostly I'm illustrating books. This was the first book I illustrated, which was for Ana Lorena Fabrega. It's like a really nice book on education. There's a lot of my illustrations, some of them which I'm really proud. Yeah, there's like one with, I don't know if you can see. Yeah, there's just like
that's cool.
Yeah, it's good. It's really cool. Some other people like Adam Grant have licensed my illustrations. You know, if he see you online,
really?
Oh, I really like this. I want to use this in my book.
I love him too.
He licensed. Then recently I did for Jefferson Fisher, who is a big communication guy on Instagram as well. So I've illustrated quite a lot of books, and I work also with founders. I worked a little bit with Naval Ravikant, as you mentioned. I have worked with Matt Diavella, who's like a big YouTuber as well, and have like made some Netflix documentaries. And the great part about all of this is that I have never reached out to them. They all came to me only because, as you say, you know, you go to Instagram, you really like my posts, oh, this is cool, etc., etc. And all clients come from online. So this really, it's one of the things which Naval Ravikant talks a lot about, which is this internet leverage, and you should like do things in public and show your expertise. And it all happened. Like I was just creating basically visuals, which I really do enjoy creating, the creative process, putting them out online with ideas that resonate with me and are interesting to me. And people who create other types of content, like authors, reach out to me and say, hey, can you illustrate my books and stuff? So those are two main parts of my business. One is like education side, and the other one is like freelance, where I do this for others.
Wow. And I wanted to have some backstory, some inside story. I'm very curious about Naval Ravikant, because here in Taiwan, maybe all my listeners, my audience, they know about Naval Ravikant because I introduced him so many times. So I'm so curious. You say he maybe contact you, maybe passively, right? You wait for him and to come to you. And how?
Okay, but now Naval Ravikant, it was slightly different because he had a person, I think, who helps him manage his Instagram and some other social stuff. I honestly don't know exactly, but like kind of was helping him with content. And that person knew my work. And then there was a time when Naval decided that he wanted to grow on Instagram as well, because he had a big audience on X, Twitter, but he wanted to grow on Instagram. And then that content person who was working with Naval said like, hey, we need Janis on the team as well. And then like kind of he established a little team to help him grow the Instagram side of the business. So that was kind of the backstory how I got work with Naval. But so it's all a relationship. One person, you do a good job for them, and it just kind of connects. And now like illustrating books for Jefferson, who is like massive. He has like 5 million followers, I think, online, or even more. Wow. And I get more book projects from him. So it's all just snowballing and compounding, as long as you are like doing good work, having good reputation online, and just trying to do your best. So that's the story, more or less.
Oh, okay. Because I also love Naval's posts and those visualizations. I think, wow, you're the one who's behind it. That was amazing. Yeah.
Well, yeah, for some of the visual, but there's some other, like the guy who is with the black and white illustrations, Jack Butcher. He have done some illustrations for him as well. So he's a little bit all over the place, but in general, I love his thoughts. He's an amazing person. I've learned so much from him. He's great.
Yeah. And maybe I will ask for my audience, because maybe some of us, we don't know about designing. We don't know much about drawing. And how about the visualization for a beginner? How do we learn, or how do we start to get a little bit of your skills or mindset? How do we start?
I would say it does start with the mindset, because I think there is this stigma, this perception, visuals, that's for artists, that's for creative people. I think a lot of people have this just mental block, where they think, it's visual, it's drawing, it's stuff, like I want to go away from that, that's for artists and creative people, and I'm not creative. And how I look at visuals, to me, it's just a vehicle for effective communication. Like, of course, if you want to create, all these famous artworks like Mona Lisa, or some extremely beautiful sketches, with pencil and shadows and stuff, like, don't come to me. Like, I can't do that stuff. You probably need to learn quite a bit to get to that level. But when it comes to using visuals to explain, you don't need any design background or whatever, We all know Venn diagrams, you draw one circle, you draw another circle, and then you figure out what sort of texts to put in there, There is bar charts, which you can use a lot of simple elements. Basically, with few strokes, you can create some sort of visual concept. And you can make it extremely ugly with just, or not even ugly, but like simple, just take black marker, draw a few lines, write some text, and here you go. That's a visual concept. And like, just imagine if you are, let's say, in a meeting room, sketching on a whiteboard. That's what a lot of people do. Like, what I do is just take that to a little bit like a next level. Instead of being on a whiteboard and just sketching and playing around, the concepts don't really develop there. They are a bit vague or whatever. But like, when you really sit with those concepts a little bit more and just try to puzzle and arrange things in the exact right way, so people get this, this makes sense, this is beautiful, I hope if you go to my Instagram, and if you understand English, you can see how it kind of works and connects. And that's just pushing that art to a little bit more edge. But again, like, sure, if you want some extremely beautiful stuff, you need to learn design or whatever. But to simply communicate visuals, you don't need. It's like a spectrum, if you want to get a little bit better, sure, get ahead. If you learn from me, I can teach you how to create the visuals you can see on my feed, exactly, like every single line, how it's made, how it's done. And when you see the behind the scenes, you're like, okay, now it makes sense. It's not actually that complicated. And like a lot of interesting comment I get from people that kind of learn from me is that, wow, I see these beautiful images on like Instagram and I really love them and adore them. And now I see like the mess, the shit show, the behind the scenes, how messy the process is to get to that like beautiful visual, because it always starts with some scrappy lines and just like everything is a little bit all over the place and quite ugly. And then you refine it later. So yeah, I would really just switch the mindset and understand that some crazy fancy art does not equal like using visuals to explain ideas visually. It can be just a vehicle for effective communication, and you don't need fancy stuff for that.
Ooh, I love this idea. Effective communication. Wow, that was so clear. And do you have some steps for us? Maybe like a 1, 2, 3, and how can we get from scratch to the final production?
In general, there's 3 main packages, and the package 1 is of course the idea itself, then it's more like the brainstorming process, and then it's like creating the final visual itself. So first you need to have ideas, I'm sure like some people who are content creators or whatever, you have ideas as well. You probably walk down the street, something pops into your mind, you make a quick note on your phone or whatever, or you are in shower and then you have an idea and then you try to hold on that idea as like, I must remember this because I can't take notes in the shower. So you need to have these original ideas, and it can be whatever, I can take quote from Naval and now, okay, how do we turn this into a visual? Or it's an idea of yours. It doesn't matter. You can take quote, you can take when I illustrate books, I read paragraphs from the book and I'm like, oh, I see some patterns here, that there is some sort of core idea which we want to communicate. So you need to get to the essence. What are you trying to say? And then let's say we take some sort of quote from Naval, we take that idea and we take it to the next step. And that is like the biggest step. When you look at the quote and like, okay, how to visualize this? You might be like, I don't know, just words, what should I do with them? So what essentially you do, I have this principle of generating more text elements. And that would be, if you have this Naval quote in front of you, just take sticky notes, whatever. It doesn't matter what tool you use. You can use a whiteboard, you can be on some whiteboarding app like FigJam or Miro, or I don't know what you're using. It really doesn't matter. And you just try to generate some text elements around that original idea. You can think about, okay, when I think about this idea and I think about before or after, or what's the reality here and what's the imagination, what sort of feelings or thoughts people have around this idea, what objections people might have. And you just, there's several questions like I kind of use to prompt these things. And you can use AI for this as well, just to help your brainstorming process. You can say like, hey, here are like the principles, take this Naval's quote and please generate some text elements. And then you take those and you see them and you look at them and you're, oh, this makes sense. And then you start to have all those text elements, you had your original idea, then you have more information around that idea. And then you can look at some sort of visual templates, frameworks, and start to think about, okay, I see if I take this part of the idea, it seems that there could be like a comparison here, and we could use like a line chart and illustrate this growth progress or whatever. Oh, there is a metaphor here, and there you can use AI to help with the brainstorming process as well. So you have the idea, you generate the text elements, then you start to try to match and make sense those elements with like visual elements. And there are certain principles how to do that. And at the end, when some visual ideas start to form, then I have this, what I call master checklist or whatever, call it whatever you want. But there are like certain steps like, does this idea feel novel? How we can amplify this. There are certain things how to grade your visual and then improve and iterate from there. So that is more or less like the process in broad perspective. But you start with an idea, generate more thoughts around that idea, try to match those things with like visual elements, and then through like your final checklist you start to refine and figure out how to really make it like pop and click and be really easy to digest and stuff like that. So yeah, we can dive into any of those things, but that is more or less like the process.
Wow, I think I get an insight from this because I originally I think maybe I would have an idea and I would jump to the conclusion that thinking, how can I draw this? What diagram or what kind of graph should I draw? I would jump to that. But from your description, you just mentioned that the idea should be expanded to text, to thoughts, to maybe sentences, and you put it on a whiteboard, maybe you put it on a paper, and you have a lot of thought and text to figure out what exactly do you want to communicate. And then you extract those thoughts, the text, to think what kind of template, what pattern can I apply to? Can I draw from this? And then you actually draw. So the drawing or the designing, the visualization is in a very later, maybe in the mid or maybe later stage of this process. So that is mind-blowing for me because totally changed how I view this.
I really like what you said there. I really like, and I would love to latch on to it a little bit because like what you explained when you have the idea on like what visual could it be and you try to jump there, that is the exact point I think when people get like paralyzed. Oh, I can't draw, like, how do writers call it, the blank page, staring at the blank page or something like that, where they feel kind of paralyzed and can't do anything. And I think that is the exact moment, but when you kind of digest it and start, let me just scribble some more thoughts here, you have this process that you go through. And even if you feel completely uncreative, even if you can't draw, like, if you go through that process, you will come up with something. And I would say it's not like design is at the very end. Obviously, these days I start to like sketch right away, and it's going hand in hand. It's like I explain to you, hey, here is step 1, here is step 2, step 3, step 4. But in general, you start with your core idea and then you're like kind of all over the place, but you keep the process in mind. So it's like, it is quite straightforward, but at the same time, there's a lot of room for flexibility and interpretation, and you jump around, and sometimes I start an idea and it doesn't really click. I move to another idea. So it's like, it's fun, creative process. It's not this super rigid thing.
Cool. And when we process this, I think a lot of people have this belief that it should be looking good, it should be organized, it should be clear. So maybe some of us, including me, I have the perfectionism. I'm afraid to post, afraid to publish. So if we, during this learning process, if we have this perfectionism issue, do you have that? Or how do you suggest your student to overcome it?
I relate to that so much because I'm the same way. I would say I'm still quite disorganized when it comes to like notes and stuff. Though I do, now with AI, I do try to come a little bit more structured because I understand the value in data. If it's like all over the place, then it's only in my head. But I try to make a system, so kind of AI can be side by side and know my thinking, and help me out more. So I try to be more structured, but in general, in notes, I'm very scattered. And all over the place. But when it comes to publishing and final work, I struggle with perfectionism a lot. And I think the way how I actually overcame this with visuals, I think was quite smart. And the idea is that when you see my style on Instagram, it might feel like, oh, this looks beautiful and cool. But in general, every line I have is a little bit imperfect. Like, when I color things, I color outside the lines, so it looks messy and a little bit like imperfect. And the font is imperfect as well. It's like hand-drawn, but it's a little bit all over the place. So there is this imperfection style throughout my final design. And the idea there is, if the style would be perfect, if I would love to have all the lines like perfectly aligned and like perfect font and always perfect distances and stuff, I think I would feel more paralyzed, and I didn't really like the final look of the visual. But when the style itself is quite imperfect, it makes for my perfectionism to get to like, this is good, and imperfection is part of our style, so this is fine, let's publish it. So that is like an interesting way how I dealt with the imperfection. And here I would say another thing, like context matters. What I've realized from posting online and building audience, obviously at the beginning you feel like, honestly you don't feel like tremendous amount of pressure because you have no following and it's like nobody's watching anyhow, so I might as well ship it, But when the audience grows, you might start feel some audience pressure to show up and look good, etc. But for the most part, like people see your thing for like few days and then it fades into nowhere. And what I do on social media, I get to a state where I feel, okay, this is good enough. I think I have communicated what I want. I maybe ask my wife or some friends, hey, do you get this visual? They're like, yeah, seems, I get it. It's clear. And that's it. I publish it. And then 3-4 months later, I come back to that visual. You know, consistency matters when you post online to grow the audience, etc., etc. And I just take that visual and I throw, okay, how we can improve this, and then I play around and maybe change the style a little bit and make some tiny tweaks here and there. So I have this, like, the more visuals you create, the easier it is to be consistent, and you kind of refine them over time. And a lot of people have forgotten the visual, or they just, new people have joined your audience, so they appreciate it. So that's the thing. Of course, if you illustrate a visual for your book, sure, take a little bit more time to make it like really how you want, ask more people, gather more feedback. It's fine because, it will be printed and stuff and it makes sense that you spend more time on it. Just get to a state, ask like few trusted friends, do you understand this? If it's good, green sign, go, ship it, come back later, iterate on it. That's how you move forward and improve.
I like this insight you just mentioned, that to overcome the perfectionism, you start with the imperfection mindset at the beginning, because I recall all of your posts, like they are hand drawn, they are like not a straight line. There are some pictures just not so perfect, and that makes me feel that's human. That's very human to me. And so that's how you start, because you start with this mindset at the beginning. So
I want to add, you remind me of something, maybe and some people know of Tim Urban, who have this blog, Wait, But Why.
Yeah, Tim Urban.
He have this very famous TED Talk of procrastination. He have a very, very famous TED Talk. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's like really good. He have extremely 5-year-old type of illustrations as well. And I think it's correct, as you say, it makes it very relatable. And here I would say, for the audience who want to use visuals in their communication, you need to understand, like, do you want to be more like me, where you build an audience and you also get hired, to illustrate books and stuff like that? Sure, if you want to do that, you probably need to level up to at least the style which I have, more or less, similar style, but similar level, because that seems to be attracting people to hire me to make books. But I think if you just want to use it to communicate ideas, you can keep it intentionally, tremendously ugly, like a 4-year-old sketch, you can still communicate those ideas in this intentionally kind of ugly and childlike style, and a lot of people will appreciate that and find it relatable. Yes, you maybe will not get hired to illustrate books because people who are authors, they don't want that in their books, but for your own content, go ahead. Maybe you don't even need to level up. Keep it intentionally super bad. Go to Canva and make it super simple and stuff like that. So yeah, it really, your goals and context really, really matters. It's not like there's one right way or yeah.
Yeah, so the communication should be clear, but the art could be crappy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I'm focused on the concept. Let's make insanely good, clear concepts, for the design part, you can be here or you can be there. I don't care, I'm more about let's communicate ideas, but I can get you at least to a level where how I design.
Yeah. I want to ask about the tool or the software you use. If we're going to post a digital format of our diagram or our visualization, what tool or what software did you use or did you teach?
I have used a lot of software. Of course, initially, I think it ties up to the perfectionism as well. I was like, oh, I need to buy iPad, I need to get these paid softwares, etc. Because, when I wanted to become a YouTuber, I thought I need the most fancy camera and fancy microphone and all that sort of stuff, which, is complete nonsense, but you convince yourself that you need this, which you really don't. I still use iPad, but mostly for sketching and just scribbling down some notes. But it's interesting how I have iterated from these paid tools and paid software, and now for the past 3+ years, and which is the main tool which I teach also in the course, is Figma, which is completely free. Yeah, Figma. Everybody can go download it, use it for free. They have paid plan, but no need for it. It's just you can create more folders or whatever. You can absolutely use the free plan alone. And that is what I use and teach. And some people think, well, like, isn't that like for fancy designers and stuff? And I would say, yes, people can create tremendously beautiful UX design through Figma. I think that was their main kind of intention when they built the tool. But I actually use, for my own visuals, I use like 5 functionalities, 5 tools in that software itself. So I keep it very basic, you know, there's no fancy stuff. There's no reason to go and learn some crazy Figma course and learn all the features. I use like plain, simple, like pretty much, 5 basic things, like you need to understand like layers and sizing and stuff. Super basic stuff, you know, it's not that complicated. So yeah, I know some people use Canva. I haven't used a lot of Canva. I think Canva is great as well. It's definitely, you can get the results very, very quickly. My only like beef with Canva is that if you want to create tremendously fancy illustrations, I think Figma allows you really to control every single line weight. What's the size of the line? What's the color? You know, so you can make everything look super unique. I think with Canva, often you use some sort of object from their library and it has like a fixed size and it looks a little bit off. But again, if your goal is just to communicate and you don't care about how fancy this looks, go at it. It's all fine. It's all good. You know, again, goals and your kind of resources and abilities. But yeah, that's what I use these days for past 3 years.
Okay, so keep the tool as simple as possible. Focus on the communication.
Yeah, but anything works, honestly. Like, I know some people draw with hand and then they snap a picture with their iPhone and post that online. Works.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah. And I think our listener following right now, maybe we are all curious about how can we learn from you, because you have like a very clear mindset and maybe process. For me, I'm curious about what's the behind the scene. How do you go from scratch to the final production? So how can we learn from you? And currently you have collaborated with a Taiwanese company, Press Play, which I love it very much because I have an online course on the Press Play. And you're going to publish an online course with them. And what is this online course is about? And what will you teach in this online course?
Yeah, I have partnered. Pressplay did reach out to me, which was very cool. You know, obviously all my content is in English. I have a global audience, but I know they're basically Pressplay reached out to me that, hey, we seem to see that there is a big demand for the skill that you teach in Taiwan, so you want to partner with us? And said, yeah, I did partner with them, and yeah, basically I will publish my course there as well. And what you learn there is essentially just in greater detail the whole process, how you go from A to Z. You see actual behind the scenes, how I illustrate visuals live, even without thinking about them before. Like, as raw as it gets, I have no clue. I found the quote and I tried to visualize this. And then I just try to verbalize all the things that kind of goes through my head. So you get all of that. There will be templates available as well for you, like basically start a little bit more easier. But like a lot of people use actually templates to kind of kick things off, you know, to get some momentum. But later people start to innovate a lot and kind of come up with completely new and unique concepts when they get the hold of the process in general. So yeah, that's the thing I'm doing with them.
So what if someone who actually learned from you and know about the visualized thinking, what kind of like fundamental change for their life could happen, maybe from your students or from yourself?
Yeah, well, I must say one thing which I have found tremendously fulfilling to see, which was something I experienced myself, is that a lot of people who went in with this mindset, oh, I can't draw, I'm not creative, they are saying to me things like, oh my God, like I'm having so much fun. This is tremendously fun and interesting, and I'm enjoying this type of content creation. And this was something I experienced as well when I started. You know, writing felt hard for me, you know, YouTube felt interesting, but like just, oh, so much work. This felt something like interesting to me and that I was able kind of to fit into my extremely busy schedule. And I've heard that from a lot of students as well. That's like more on the process side. And then of course the outcomes and where you take the skill is really up to you. But I would say same as like learning how to be a good writer can be useful in basically all areas of life. It's very similar with visuals, you know, you can take the skill and improve your presentations at work, you can become better like at sketching stuff at whiteboards, at whatever for your company. If you want to create content like I have and grow on social media, you can absolutely do that, and that then later potentially can lead for you to do like freelance work, like illustrating books or creating social content for like other thought leaders or something like that. There's essentially any type of online communication. Visuals can be useful, like landing pages on website. If you are in marketing, I think this is very useful skill set to have. So it's up to you. It's a fundamental core skill that I think it's for you for life, which you can really go and apply very broadly. But yeah, my story, how I applied it. And yeah, a lot of students have actually outgrown me on socials. Like there's this one of my favorite students is Roberto Ferrero, who have grown big audience on LinkedIn. Yeah, he's amazing. It was back in the days when NFT was like a thing, and I played around with that as well. And he bought one of my NFTs back in the days when I played with it. And then when I launched the course, he just bought it for like, just to say thanks because he enjoyed my work. And when I launched the course, I said, hey Roberto, by the way, I have launched this thing. Do you want to try it? He said, sure. And he never designed, had no intention about this. And now he's like creating, and he have like a busy 9-to-5 job. He have 2 kids.
Wow.
And now he have created over 1,000 visuals. He's grown on LinkedIn over 100,000 followers. He's like the main content creation type, and he had no intention to do this. So that's crazy. He's like one of my favorite stories and a good friend as well. So sky is the limit, go and apply this as you please.
Yeah, I like it. It's very inspiring. And I want to circle back to the very beginning of our topic that we started with AI. So I wanted to ask for my audience, because many of them may be very hesitated about whether should I buy this course or whether should I learn visualization. Because right now, many people, maybe they are outsource their thinking to AI. They just ask AI to, okay, generate this paragraph for me and generate this graph for me. And they just outsource everything to AI and they don't want to think. And what's the difference? And what did you see about this if someone who is hesitated about adapting visualization thinking?
There's 2 things. One is the quality of results, because if you just outsource everything to AI, you will get sloppy results. You will get the world's average, at the end.
Average.
Like the process that you kind of learn from me, and you come up with so much novel and interesting insights that I have not seen AI can do on its own. As I said, I use AI in the brainstorming process. I like bounce and wrestle with it, and I actually feed it like my checklist, and I ask it like, hey, according to like my checklist and my rules, can you rate this, from 1 to 10 on all these areas? And it kind of gives me rating, and then, novelty seems quite low. And I kind of agree with that. And then I brainstorm some more ideas. So it's like a really great thinking partner to get to like a really great result. But to outsource it completely, I don't know, maybe someday we will get there. But at the moment you will get like, I think, really sloppy and average results. And I believe people feel that, I almost feel like my generation, I know, like my parents, they pay attention to all the YouTube ads that appear and stuff like that. But I feel, I don't know, I don't see ads, if I see it's like an ad on TV, I automatically go blank and I ignore it. And I think like people now with AI start to have similar perception. They see these AI generated things and they automatically, instinctively know, oh, this is AI generated. You didn't put any thought to it. I don't trust you, etc., etc.
Yeah.
That is on the output. And then I really liked what you said about outsourcing your thinking. If I want to make good decisions, I sit down with pen and paper and I actually write it out. And as I write, I see like problems and stuff. When I write my newsletter, I have this idea in head. I'm like, this is good. And then I start to like write it and visualize it. And I'm like, oh, I see some holes here. There's some things to work out, And through that process, you actually improve your idea itself. You improve your communication. And if you just, hey, take this, give me this, and you skip the whole process, you are kind of, I think, stagnating your growth as well. So I think the output is better when you work with AI together, not only outsource it. And like your personal growth will be better as well if you actually learn these things and stuff. It's like same with me and coding, I outsource it to coding, but probably my output would be better if I actually would learn the coding basics. It's a little bit different, but you get the idea. So yeah, talked a lot about it, but that's in general my thoughts. I think AI is amazing. I'm all for it, but I really believe it's like a great helping partner, but it's not something you should outsource things completely.
Yeah, I wanted to add one more thing. During our conversation, I have discovered one thing that if we don't know anything about visualization, we don't know about the process, about every detail in it, when we work with AI, we will just ignore those details. We ignore those most important things. We ignore those contexts.
Yeah, you don't know what questions to ask.
Yes.
Because I can ask it a lot better questions.
Yeah.
You know, hey, is this visual good? They will say, yeah, it's fine, you know. But I give it like, hey, rate this visual from 1 to 10 in these 8 categories. And then it gives me back clear information. I see, oh yeah, this category, I agree, you know, I need to figure some stuff out there. And then I work on that particular. So it's like the questions as well. You're absolutely right. You're very spot on.
Yeah, so I think in this era, we need to learn what question to ask. And based on what we already know, based on what we learn. So if we don't learn anything, we don't have any basic knowledge about this, we don't know about what question to ask. And that would be very, very dangerous. And the quality would be very low. So impossible to watch. Yeah. And so I would just encourage our listeners about what's the value of learning visualization from Janis. Yeah, that's what I wanted to put. And I think one more thing I wanted to ask about Janis, is there any encouragement or some motivation for people who still maybe they don't want to step out, or maybe they're hesitated about taking the next action? What's your encouragement to them?
What I actually use in my own personal life when it comes to various different new fields I try to explore, I really do enjoy this quote and saying from Brendan Burchard, who is he's just a motivational guy, works with high performers. And he has this saying of, believe in your abilities to figure things out. And what I take from that quote is that it's not like you are lying to yourself. You're not saying, oh, I am an artist, I am creative. You don't say that to yourself. What you say to yourself is I believe in my abilities to figure this thing out. There was a time when I didn't have driving license, and at the steering wheel I felt like I will never learn how to drive. This is crazy. This is insane, you know. But I learned. I passed the driving test. Now I've been driving for 15, 20 years. I feel like I'm really good at driving and stuff, you know, and even can talk on the phone while driving. Not recommended, but you know. But once you had this belief that I can't do this, but then you actually tried, and now you're super confident in it. It's the same thing with pretty much any new skill you will take on. Yeah, you just need to believe in your abilities to figure things out, and all will be good. You need a little bit of extra guidance, can take you a long way. So just take the first step and rock on.
Yeah, thank you for this kind words. And I wanted to ask a final question, because I've noticed that you have mentioned so many authors in the entire show. And, you know, I'm a book lover. Our audience are book lovers. So what is the maybe most interesting book you've read in 2025?
There is one book which I actually just illustrated, but I can't tell you about it because it will be out only, I think, it will be end of next year. I'm working with the author, you know, but he have not announced it, so I can't. But I think that will be my next most recommended book in terms of how to get your life in order and stuff like that. But then we need to do a round 2 in a year or whatever. But I will probably post on my socials when that comes out. But one which is out is The Next Conversation by Jefferson Fisher.
Oh, okay.
Do you know the guy or no?
I know him. Yeah.
For years he had been trial lawyer. He's from United States, you know, so he's in a lot of court cases. So he's really an expert in communication. And this book is I think really useful for anybody who kind of wants to improve their communication, both in relationships, in work and stuff. It really shows really useful tactics, how to become a better communicator and get what you want out from life, with words. So highly encourage this book, and it also has my illustrations in it, which is of course great.
That's cool. Yeah, thank you for this recommendation, and it's such an honor to have you here. Thank you very much. Yeah, so I will put your Instagram link and the online course link in the show notes. So everyone who's interested, please go to click it. OK， 那今天的这个访谈就到这个段落。那如果大家喜欢今天的内容，欢迎订阅下一本读什么，那也可以订阅我的免费电子报，每周收到最新的读书心得和好书金句。那我跟 Janis 就跟大家说声拜拜咯。Janis, let's go say goodbye. Bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.